Hello to all my One Piece and Animator fans. I want to start this video by thanking everyone who subscribed. I didn't even expect my One Piece content to get as popular as it did, and I surely didn't expect Usopp leaving the crew to be my #1 video right now, but here we are. Anyways, for those of you that follow me on Instagram, you will also see that I'm a 3D animator. This video will be a fusion for my collective fans. Today, I am going to be making Brook! Yo! Anyways, okay, to give you guys a little bit of background, a couple of weeks ago, I was working on one of my own personal characters. Here he is. His name is Don. I couldn't find much sources on how to create a nice 4A/4B Afro in the new Blender 4.0 update. Shout out to Jonas on YouTube, and I'm gonna link everything that I use in my description. But shout out to him. He was actually really helpful on helping me create this Afro. I did some tweaking and some research on my own, and I think I came up with a look that I wanted to share with you guys. Now, I'm gonna get started on how I create Don's really nice Afro and how I do it on Brook. Okay, so what you want to start off by doing is opening up your basic general new Blender file. And then what I like to do to start off is to change, you go to the render engine settings and you change it from EV to cycles. And then you change your device from CPU to GPU compute. I like to change the viewport max samples to 64 and then the render max samples to 150. 1,000 and 4,000 is way too much, and that's going to take up way too much time for your rendering on your computer, so changing those to smaller values but still high enough so that you get good quality images. So then you want to head over to compositing. You want to click the checkbox at the top for use nodes, and this is where I like to put I want to denoise my image, so that way when we render out my image, it's not, blurry. You don't get that pixel thing or whatever. So first what you have to do is go over to your render settings, and then you have to check off denoising data. You scroll down to passes and then data, and then you check off denoising data. Then you go into your compositing nodes. You want to press Shift A, type denoise, and then you should see the denoising node. You add that, and then you're going to plug in denoising normal into normal, and then the albedo into albedo, and you should be good to go for that. The last thing you want to do, a part of your routine when you start a Blender project, is to save your file. Make a folder somewhere. I have already pre-made a folder that I wanted to save it into, so you won't see it on the screen, but save it into a specific folder, label it correctly so you know where to find it, and then you should be good to go to start. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you want to make sure you have the Blender demo files already downloaded, and you want to have already opened up that Human Base Meshes Blender project, and have it somewhere, again, in a folder labeled specifically so you know where to get it and have access to it. What I am doing now is appending the skull from that demo file, because it's a nice skull and it's easy to use, and why am I going to go through the hard work of making a skull when Blender gives me one for free? So now you can kind of follow as I'm doing. I am just centering the skull. I like my stuff to be centered. I also apply all the transforms that I do to it. Once I do center it, I'm then shaping the head, making it a little bit more narrow. If you know how Brook's skull looks, I'll put a little image in the video. His skull is a little bit more narrow, so I'm just kind of following that. Reference images are key whenever you are creating something. I definitely have a bunch of reference images up right now next to me, so make sure you do the same thing as you are creating. Alright, now we are going to get started on actually creating the Afro itself. So what you want to do is you want to add a cube, so Shift A, then you go to Mesh, and then Cube, a default cube. Hopefully you guys should know how to do that. You go to your modifier tab, and then you're going to add a subdivision modifier. You're going to change both the render and viewport to 2, and then you're going to apply that first subdivision surface. Then you're going to add another subdivision surface and do the same thing, make it to 2. Then you'll shade the cube smooth by double clicking and click shade smooth. And then you're going to move the cube into the middle of the skull, and then we're going to start shaping that cube to fit the head of the skull, only that back part where hair grows. And you'll see how I'm kind of doing it and why we're kind of doing it this way in just one sec. And as you're shaping the head part for the hair, always do kind of like a 360 and make sure things look fine. As you can see, the hair part starts to poke out a little bit, and so I'm fixing that. And just, again, it's a lot of scale Z, scale Y, a lot of those hotkeys. Yeah, just a little bit. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm just going through and making sure it looks good. But whatever looks good to you, you can stop whenever you want. Once that looks to your liking, you're going to head over to sculpt mode. Then you're going to change the radius to about 200. As you can see, I kind of go back and forth, but 200 is about good. You're going to make sure you have your mirroring on the y-axis, or whatever axis the mirroring is for you. Mine is for the y-axis. And then you're going to select the inflate option in sculpt mode, the inflate/deflate. What you want to kind of slowly start doing is pressing and inflating the hair so that it comes slightly above the skull, so that it starts to resemble kind of like a hair cap. I like to do hair caps when I'm creating hair, so that way it doesn't mess up whatever mesh you're actually working on. There's a couple of different ways to make hair caps, but this is the way I do it. So yeah, you slowly go around and inflate the cube until it looks just about right. You can also go back and forth with the grab brush to kind of make sure you get the desired look. I kind of start grabbing it and pulling it down, and then I start to inflate again. So kind of going back and forth between those two to get the look that you need. I am pretty satisfied with my look here. I'm going to make sure I change the name of that cube to hair, and then I'm going to save. Always get into the habit of saving every time you do a step. As you guys might know, Blender has a habit of crashing, so just save. Now, with your hair cap selected, you are going to press Shift A again, and you're going to go over to curves and add an empty hair. Okay, this is gonna see, as you can see in your objects, you're gonna see that under hair it's gonna create curves. Hair is technically curves in Blender, so you're gonna add that empty hair. Once you add that empty hair, you now want to go over to sculpt mode, and we're going to start to actually add the individual hair particles. You're going to make sure you have your radius set to 200. You're going to have your count to 10, and make sure also you selected the add hairbrush, which is the first option. We're going to really be using the add hairbrush, the comb brush, and then the delete. We're not going to really be using any of the other ones. So then, yeah, count to 10. You want to go to curve shape. I go back and forth to see what desired length I want. I ultimately settle with 2.25 meters. You know, as you guys know, Brooke has a really big afro, and so I kind of wanted the afro to be long. When you're dealing with longer hair, you want to change the points to 16. Shorter hair, the points can be smaller, like maybe 5, 6, and then medium hair, maybe 10, 11, 12. Long hair, 16 plus is good. I usually just do 16, maybe 17 or 18, depending. But here I'm going to do 16. So now you're going to start to fill in the afro. Make sure you don't leave any bald spots. Really do a 360-degree turn and look at every single angle to make sure you get all the spots. Now you might see some of the hair to start to stick through the skull, the face, and we'll fix that, don't worry. Just fill in as much as you can. Go around in circular motions until you fill in the whole hair cap. Once you fill in the whole hair cap, you want to select your hair cap, and then you want to click Command, and then you want to click Curves. Once you do that, you want to click the / key. The / key is basically going to isolate whatever is selected. So right now we have hair and curve selected. Once you click that / key, it's going to isolate that and make that the only thing in the viewport. You're then going to select your delete brush, and then you're going to go through and slowly start to delete any of those hairs that are sticking through the face of the skull. Be careful, don't delete too much. Obviously, you can press Command Z if you make a mistake, but just go through and delete some of those hairs. You can press the / key again, as I do, to go back and forth and see how it looks on the skull, and then go back to the isolated view so that way you can get the desired look that you want. I also make my radius a little bit smaller when I do this, just so I can be a little bit more precise. Once you delete all those hairs, you're going to click your add brush again. You're going to zoom in a little bit closer, still at 100px, and then you're going to slowly, you're not going to drag your mouse to fill in the hair like we did before. Now you're just going to slowly like press, like dap, 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 to fill in some of those bald spots that might have came in. Make sure you do this slowly. You don't want to bring in hairs again that are sticking through the face, but it's fine. Again, Control Z or Command Z, whatever you're working on, to undo, and just really go through and go back and forth to get the look you want. Once you're done with that, you want to increase your radius to 300. You're going to click your comb brush now, and now you're going to go around the outside of the afro to kind of give it some deform. As you guys know, afros aren't uniform. They can be uniform, but I don't want mine to be uniform. You're going to slowly just start to deform some of the parts, brush it a little bit down and put some parts up, just to not make it look uniform and make it look more realistic. Once you're finished with all that, you'll go back into object mode and save. I'm back in object mode now, and I decided to go into render view and set up a little 3-point lighting. You can watch how I do it. You can do it your own way. I use 3 spotlights, and then I hit the R key twice. As you guys might know, the hotkey for rotating is R, but if you press it twice on a light, it then, or any object for that matter, it will rotate it kind of in 2 dimensions. So I'm fixing that and adjusting that to the way I want it. You can follow what I do, or you can do it your own way. Once you are done with that, you want to pull up the little bottom view port, and you want to change that to asset browser. This is where we're going to start to actually create the afro. Again, you have to make sure that you download Johnny Matthews geometry node asset hair nodes. It's free. You can make a donation to him because he's great and amazing for giving us something free like this. And he has a bunch of other YouTube videos to explain what he did to create this. Make sure that this is downloaded and that you have opened the file, because we're going to be appending geometry nodes from that to create our afro. We are going to be applying 7 different modifiers, some of them from the default hair asset browser that we get through Blender 4.0 and some of them from Johnny Matthews. With those together, I did some experimenting and I came out with the perfect Afro combination that I like, that you saw on my character Dawn, and that I'm going to use here to create on Brooke. The first one I'm adding is from the default hair asset in the asset browser. We're going to add set hair curve profile. You're going to drag that and drag it onto the curve. You're going to change radius to 0.002. You'll change the shape to 0.500. The factor minimum, you want to change that to 0.2. And then the max, you want to leave that as 1. The next one you want to add is also in the asset browser. This one is hair curve noise. You want to change factor to 1 or leave it at 1. Distance to 0.05. You want to change the shape to 0.5 or leave that at 0.5. You want to change scale to 50 and then leave everything else the same. Now this is when we're going to append one of the nodes from Johnny Matthews' Blender file. You're going to go and append the multiply hair control. You can follow as I do on how to append that. I don't figure this out until later, so if you're having trouble when you go and add that modifier and you're not seeing it, make sure you save your file and then go and look and see if you see it again. I didn't realize this, but I realized that I had to go to file and save. And then once I saved, you'll see in my screen that I have a bunch of multiply hair controls and then a bunch of braid controls. That's because I couldn't find it, so I kept appending like 3 or 4 times. Save your file first, and then the modifiers should pop up in the modifier tab. Once you add multiply hair control, you're going to change hairs to 8, spread to 0.05, frizz to 0.09, the minimum length factor to 0.470, and then the max length factor to 1.600. You're also going to append braid control. Again, make sure you save the file after you append, and then you should see braid control. You're going to change A to 0.1, B to 0.05, and then factor should be 5, and then, or not factor, F should be 5, and then N should be 3. You can keep resolution as 111. The last one that you are going to append from Johnny Matthews is curls. This one you're going to change resolution to 10, and then you're going to change both the radius and value to 0.08. And then actually I'm going to bump up my value to about 1 meter because I think it just looked a little better, a little bit more realistic to me. But do whatever you want. Again, you do not have to follow whatever values I do. You can change the values to whatever you want to make it look like how you want to look. I'm just making it like this to get this desired look. Okay, thank you guys for bearing with me because we are adding our 7th geometry node, and that is going to be our roll hair curve. The roll hair curve again is already in Blender 4.0, so you don't need to append anymore. Once you add roll hair curve, you're going to change subdivision to 2, variation level 10. I start experimenting with roll length and roll radius. I started off by changing roll length to 0.2 and then roll radius to 0.02, but then I ended up changing those values and roll length ended up being 0.6 and then roll radius ended up being 0.08. I wanted the afro to be a little bit tighter, and because Don's afro was shorter, I think I needed smaller values, but since this is a longer afro, you need bigger values, so just keep that in mind if you have a really big afro. And there you have it. You have your afro. Now, I am not 100% satisfied. I'm noticing that some of the hair particles are kind of like a little bit too forward in front of the face, and I kind of want them a little bit back. And so what I'm going to do is, as you can see, having all these modifiers is going to make your computer a little bit laggy. So what you can do to edit these hair particles is you're going to go to the modifier tab and you're going to remove all of these modifiers from the viewport. Okay, what that's going to do is it's going to take all of that away and allow you to go back into sculpt mode and edit some of the hairs without it being super duper laggy. So I start removing from the bottom because the order in which you see the modifiers is the order in which they're done. So I start at the bottom and then I go to the top. You don't need to take away surface deform because that's just the default. And then I'm just editing, moving some of the hairs back, and then I'm going back and forth to see how I like that look. And then you see what I have here. The last couple minutes I'm just gonna let play. I'm just changing the hair color. You take out the principal BDSF and then you change that to a principal hair BDSF. And then once you do that, I change both the roughness and the radial roughness to 0.2. And that's really it for the hair color. And then I have the Blenderkit add-on from Blenderkit.com. If you don't have a Blenderkit account, it's free. There's a free version and a paid-for version. I use the free version if I just want to get something quick and easy. I have paid for it before in the past if I've seen something that I've liked. But I use Blenderkit to go and find a quick bone material, and I add that to my bone. You can make your own, or you can use Blenderkit like I did, or you can find a video to make one yourself. I'm not spending too much time on that because I want the emphasis of this video to be on the afro. But yeah, I then render out my image. The rendered image takes about 20 minutes, and this is what I have. One of the things that I really appreciate about Blender 4.0 is how realistic this hair looks, and achieving this look without having it be super glitchy. The particle system before was kind of glitchy for me, especially if you're not using a really big, massive PC at the moment. This works great for me. I love it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm new to this, trying to be true to this. But thank you guys for watching if you made it this far. And like, subscribe, all that other jazz, whatever you want to do. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. Peace.